Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Women in Math and STEM, where our mission is to reach out to as many professionals, aspiring professionals, students, whatever you name it. We try to reach out to them, who essentially support the initiative of bringing more women and young girls into the STEM field. So, with that being said, as always, feel free to open up the description or transcript to better follow along, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hello, and thank you so much for
There
being
we
able
go.
to make it to this episode and speaking with me. Just to sort of begin, do you mind briefly introducing yourself as well as sort of walking us through your math journey?
Sure. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever they are watching, or good evening. My name is Dr. Kelly Ivy. I am an assistant professor of mathematics education at the University of the District of Columbia. So what that means is I teach math teachers how to teach math. That's the shortest way that I can say it. And so this is my second year not being a student and being a faculty member. So I recently just graduated with my dissertation from the University of Maryland and finished all that up. So I'm a recent graduate. And so now I'm on the other side of things being a college professor. So math journey. I've always loved math. Instead of, going outside and playing jump rope with my cousins, I was reading my dad's math books that he, had from when he was in college and he just kept them. And so always loved math growing up. It made sense to me. It was always really quick and I understood it. I struggled in other content areas, but math was just like second nature. And so when I went to college, I was a math major at Howard University. And once I graduated, I went straight into the classroom to be a high school math teacher. So that was my math journey. And then I realized that instead of just helping like my small classroom of students, I wanted to help teachers to teach math. So then I set out on another math journey to continue education. And then I got a master's degree and now a PhD. And now I work with future math teachers and current math teachers. Yeah, so that's my journey.
Congratulations, by the way. That sounds amazing. I was also just wondering what inspired you or currently inspires you to continue on your journey of math education and equity advocacy.
You said what inspires me? You froze just a
Yeah.
little.
What inspired you and continues to inspire you to continue on your journey?
I'm gonna pull up the questions just to help. Okay. So what inspires me? There it is. What inspired you to focus your career on math ed and equity advocacy? So math education, when students or, young children just hear math, they think of math by itself and you work with numbers, but not necessarily the education part of it. So it's always, having to think about, it's like thinking about psychology. Like, what are the best ways and the teaching practices to help someone learn math? And the best ways and like coaching practices to help a teacher to be comfortable teaching. And so, yeah, I was just inspired to go into that work by some of my former math teachers and college professors that I've had. And, just seeing how they taught me, inspired me to want to, teach like them. And then as far as advocacy and equity work, I had a professor in my PhD program, and she really helped me to understand that equity has different meaning for different people and at different levels of education. So equity in the elementary classroom may not look the same as equity in the high school classroom. And she said it's very important that you work with your students to help them to understand as future teachers what that means for them. And even at the level of like being a principal, equity may have a different definition for principals as well. And so I wanted to make sure that I could help math teachers to know what it meant to be in the classroom, particularly. So I'm just inspired by other teachers and students.
I see. Speaking of all the amazing work you do, I was wondering what do you hope that like your work or how do you want to see your work like impact your students or those around you?
Mhm. And so the majority of my work is with in-service teachers, so teachers who are currently teaching. And so what I hope the impact is of my work, specifically with the elementary teachers, is that because they were not math majors, but they were elementary education majors, they may have their own fears of teaching math. So I hope that my work and my research will help them not to be afraid to teach math because a lot of the students that I work with and in-service teachers, they're like, I'm not teaching math beyond second grade. And I'm like, no, you can go higher. You can teach, you know, fifth grade or teach middle school math. So it's really helping teachers to be comfortable. So I hope that my work and my research will help to erase teachers' fears of teaching math.
That sounds awesome. I was also just curious, what challenges have you specifically faced when it comes to advocating for more equitable mathematics education, and how exactly did you sort of overcome those challenges?
I was thinking about it, and because I work at a university that acknowledges equity and that really respects equity for what it is and who it can benefit, and that everyone benefits from it, I haven't had any challenges, to be quite honest, because I'm in an environment that welcomes it. I'm in an environment where someone would say, well, can you help me to teach this content area more equitable, or where the community that surrounds the university, the teachers are very helpful and or they are interested in professional development to help them. So I haven't, experience challenges. Like the keyword may be yet, but I'm happy that I haven't. I'm happy that, you know, we're in a time right now where equity is being heard and listened to, and people are understanding and accepting of it. So yeah.
I see, that sounds pretty good. And also, I was just curious whether or not you had any tips or advice for students, maybe high school students, middle school students, college students who are interested in creating a more equitable or inclusive education environment for their peers or for those around them.
I love that the focus is on actual students because what I say is it is your teacher's job to make sure that your classroom has an equitable environment, but that's not the case all the time. So my advice to students would be to work with each other to make it like a community of math learners. So if you have a best friend over here and they may be struggling with the math content, help your friend out. And instead of it being, an environment where it's competitive or where there's competition, let's make it so that everyone is heard, everyone's needs are met. And I think that students can rally together to do that at any grade level, honestly.
I see. Sounds amazing. Also, I was just curious, like about your opinion on what role math education plays in addressing systemic inequities in education.
Sure. So right now, math education is very open to change, which is a great place to be. And so I feel like, so in general, math classrooms historically are quiet places. They're places of competition. They're places where the answer is either right or the answer is wrong. They're places where you only hear the teacher's voice and you don't hear the student's voices. And so that's how what's happening right now with all of the equity work, what's happening with, culture being included in the classroom, with culturally responsive teaching and culturally relevant pedagogy, with all of those those different ideas impacting classrooms, it's the complete opposite of what it's been historically. So classrooms are not quiet. You hear students' voices, you hear teachers' voices. Classrooms are not as competitive unless it's a game where a teacher is, having all the students work together in a team competition. um, Classrooms are engaging. You hear everyone's voice and everyone has input. And so that's what I think the systematic barriers that are being broken just in math education. And I hope that it can trickle into other content areas as well.
Sounds absolutely phenomenal. And then lastly, just to sort of end off, what do you believe like schools should do or educators should do specifically to ensure that their students have the best or the highest quality education and math experience as they possibly can?
So when I think of schools, I'll start with schools and then I'll go to teachers. So when I think of schools, I think about the administration that run the schools. So I think just being open to different professional development opportunities for their teachers, in-house professional development, as well as outside of the walls professional development. There is an organization called the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. And so maybe having your math teachers go to an NCTM gathering or conference for them to be inspired and get new teaching ideas. And then when it comes to teachers, just making sure that they know their content and they know their students. So teaching math is not just about knowing math, but you have to know your students who you're teaching math. You have to know what after school activities they have. If you can remix a math problem to include that after school activity or to include like a business that's down the street that's in the community, you know. So teachers really have to be in touch with who they are, who their students are, and with the math itself. And that creates like the best math learning environment, to be honest. Yeah.
Sounds good. And then lastly, to end off, I was wondering if you had any parting words of advice or anything you want to share with our audience.
Sure. If it's to encourage, future STEMers or mathers, I would say just try. Just try. Ask questions and ask your professors and your teachers, well, how did you learn math? What helps you learn? And not be quiet. And so if they're having struggles and they're like, oh, I don't understand this math problem. Don't sit in silence. No, 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 no. Speak up for yourself. Advocate for yourself. Ask the teacher for help. Ask your peers for help. Go, online and watch videos. Get whatever you need to get your understanding. No more quiet in the math classroom. Advocate for yourself. Get what you need and see how far math can take you because it's in your life every day. Every single day we do math. So everyone is mathematically gifted, whether they believe it or not. Everyone is a math person.
Sounds good. Thank you so much once again. Your insight was amazing and greatly appreciated. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.